Good morning. The March 21st, 2018 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. In the interest of promoting the order and efficiencies of these hearings, persons who are disruptive to the hearings will be asked to leave the hearing room immediately. Meetings of the Board of Estimates are open to the public for the duration of the meeting. The hearing room must be vacated at the conclusion of the meeting. Failure to comply may result in the charge of trespassing. Madam Deputy Controller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda?
Good morning. For today's agenda, we received a protest for pages 79 to 80, item number 2, which is B50055154, citywide violation towing. That item will be deferred for 1 week, so will not be heard today. We have one other deferral, which is page 14 for 2 weeks. I have the following abstentions to note. There are no abstentions for the Honorable Mayor Pugh. The Honorable President Young will abstain on page 3, pages 53 to 54, pages 86 to 87, items 6 and 7, and the President will also vote no on page 48 to 52, item numbers 1 through 4. The Honorable Comptroller Pratt will abstain on page 34, item 1, page 87 to 88, item number 9. Remaining on the non-routine agenda are the audits which appear on page 1. There are 2 audits. Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board.
Thank you. I will direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from our office dated March 19, 2018, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections and additions that have been noted by the Deputy Controller. I will entertain the motion to approve all of the items contained on the routine agenda.
All right, so moved, Mr. President.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carried. The routine agenda has been adopted. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 7, item number 1, Department of Audits, City of Baltimore Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for fiscal year 2017. Will the parties please come forward? The mayor has one? Okay. I need to read. Madam Mayor, Okay.
Okay, good morning, honorable board members. Mayor Pugh, President Young, Controller Pratt,
State your name.
Audrey Askew. I would like to begin with the CAFR, and then it's actually going to be combined. It's going to be CAFR and the single audit. It's one report at the end, so it's one and
You're going to
two.
do both of them together?
At the same time, right, it's together. Because some of the findings overlap.
Okay.
So, the first.
So we're going to hear item number 1 and
2.
item number 2.
Yes.
Just for the record, that we're going to do item number 1 and item number 2 together.
So if you turn to page 2, as auditors, we're required to communicate information to the board. It's addressed to the president of the board, which will be Honorable President Jack Young. You do not have the letter in front of you. We've had system difficulties, so after this meeting, we should have that printed out and handed to you. But so the letter is not attached. It's AUC 260. And in that letter, it basically states some information as we went through the audit. If we encountered some difficulties or areas of concerns, we noted that. So the first one, we did not encounter any difficulties with management during the course of our audit. All misstatements were provided to management and they were corrected by management. We did not encounter any disagreements with management during the course of the audit. Management has provided us with representation letters for the June 30th, 2017 audits. That's both CAFR and a single audit. Management did not consult with other independent accountants about accounting or audit matters to gain a second opinion. The summary of our audit results were an opinion on the CAFR was an unmodified, clean opinion overall. We did identify material weaknesses. We did not identify any significant deficiencies. We do note that of the findings that we found, there were some material non-compliance issues with the financial statements. For the single audit, we issued an unmodified opinion as well. Unmodified is a clean opinion. We did identify material weaknesses in that audit. We did not identify any significant deficiencies. For the LIHEAP program, we did qualify that program opinion. All other programs received an unmodified opinion, and Baltimore City is not considered a low-risk auditee due to the material weaknesses noted. If you turn to the next page, this is just a chart of how we looked at 2016 and 17. So in 16, we had 2 findings for the CAFR. This year we have 4. Single audit stayed with the 19 findings, different types of findings, but still 19. And for material weaknesses, last year we noted 5 material weakness findings. This year, we've noted 7 material weakness findings. The Department of Audits, for the single audit, we audited $131 million of the $197 million expenditures in 2017. A new note that is required to be noted in all audits is GASB 77. It's the tax abatement disclosure. Just because it's new, we're required to note that and just inform you of that. So for the tax abatement program, Baltimore City abated $23,490,000. The next page begins the material weaknesses. So to prevent Mr. Raymond from going up and down, I put all his findings together. So findings 1, 2, 3, and 5 will be discussed, and then we'll move to 4. So the first finding is the material weakness over the grant accounting function, 2017-001. The City of Baltimore is responsible for properly tracking and accounting for state, federal, and other grants. Due to a lack of formal procedures and accountability at various city departments, the city is not able to establish accurate balances of grant accounts receivable and grant deferred revenue accounts. There is a lack of communication between the departments that receive grants and the finance department, which consolidates information received from the various departments to assemble the financial statements. Grant expenditures and grant receipts are often allocated to wrong general ledger accounts, which could lead to overcharging certain grant accounts, overstating deferred revenue or other grant accounts, and improper billing of certain grants. Because Baltimore City's finance department reports grant revenue, grant accounts receivable, and grants deferred revenue balances based on information provided and maintained by various city departments that receive federal, state, and other grants. According to finance, they do not have the authority to enforce timely preparation and reconciliation of grant account balances from departments. We observed multiple accounts being used to track expenditure and revenue for multi-year grants with limited reconciliation of activity across the accounts. Also, the city does not have staff dedicated to properly account for the grant activity and related details required. The effect: the city is not able to establish accurate balances of grant accounts receivable and grant deferred revenue accounts. As a result, the city could lose its much needed funding. We recommend the city develop a formal written procedure to timely and properly track and account for grant revenues and expenditures, and procedures that allow the reconciliation of grant account balances from central general ledger to systems maintained at individual departments that receive grants. We also suggest that the city establish a grants department that would be responsible for reconciling the grant information. In addition, the city should invest into robust general ledger software that would be able to accommodate the accounting and record keeping for complex grants received by the city and dedicate staff to properly account for its grant activities. The city should consider investing in software to properly manage its grants.
I'll wait until you're through and then I'll
Okay.
Yeah, I have a few questions. If we can back up to page 7, where we're talking about tracking expenditures. When you're dealing with grants and you have a certain grant number, how can you not use that same grant number for your expenditures so they can add up? I don't understand how we can have a problem with grants. And this is like since I've been on the Board of Estimates, and that has to really stop, because if their grants don't add up, and this is federal money, right? Federal government comes and want to do an audit, we can owe thousands, maybe millions of dollars. So I don't know, it don't take a rocket scientist. If I have a grant that says 0001, and I know that I only can use that grant money for that, then that's what we need to be doing. And for finance to say they have no control, you're the finance department. I mean, we can do cups, we can hold back department money until they start getting serious about tracking these grant dollars, because this is serious business. And I don't take excuses when we're talking about city finances, because if we have to pay the money back, that's coming out of the city's money.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just hoping that in the future, starting today, these departments that are getting grants, if they're not doing these grants and administering the grants like they're supposed to, then we hold back money from that agency.
Let me just add something. I believe, Mr. President, that having not been here as long as you have in this position, that we've had this discussion about the grants, and there are departments whose large budgets are dependent upon federal grants, and there really does need to be a closer checking. I know you're going to address this, but the other issue for us is when the grant ends. It's not so much us paying back, it's the city ending up with people on their payroll who are grant employees who end up on the city's payroll and costing the city additional dollars. So it goes both ways. So I'm sure that you'll address that as we continue to move forward. Thank you.
Comptroller?
Yeah. So maybe you can explain what steps you've taken to have this not be a finding next year.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. President, Mayor Pugh, Comptroller Pratt, honorable members of the board. I'm Henry Raymond, Director of Finance. So as it relates to the grant accounting, I'll explain it in more detail in my response, but directly to the President's concern, what we're doing is we're training agencies on how to properly use budget account numbers. What you said, why aren't expenditures being recorded to the correct budget account numbers for grants? It's primarily because agencies, staff at the agencies are using outdated or incorrect grant account numbers. So overall, as it relates to this particular finding, we implemented a grants management office. That office is responsible for overseeing all the transactions related to grants across all the agencies. They're reviewing all journal entries prior to being posted. They're reviewing all the documentation from the initial award to post-award, all the steps in between. Are they applying for reimbursements on a timely basis? Are they underspending, overspending? Are they submitting financial reports in a timely manner? We also purchased CRM software to track all grant activity so that we can capture CDFA numbers, begin date of the award, the end date of the awards, all the financial transactions that occur on the award to ensure that the grants are not overspent.
So this is implemented this one.
In fiscal 17, we started. So the grants unit has been in existence since fiscal 17. The software was installed in 17. Agency grant staff have been trained on the software. They're utilizing it. The grants management office is reviewing all journal entry transactions. They've reviewed all negative balances of grant-related budget account numbers to close them down so that agencies can't use incorrect numbers. They've informed the agencies regarding the incorrect numbers, transferring those ineligible costs sitting in those incorrect account numbers to legitimate numbers, i.e. the general fund, or the current federal fund account number.
So in essence, we won't see this next year.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Finding number 2,
Okay, so-
material weakness over financial reporting function. Criteria: the City of Baltimore is responsible for proper accounting and disclosure of financial information in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. The Baltimore City Finance Department reports financial information based on the information provided and maintained by various city departments that process property tax activities, water and sewer activities, capital asset activity, and internal fund balance transfer activity. There is currently no process in place to enforce timely preparation and reconciliation of interperiod activity and account balances from departments. We know that the city does not have centralized staff dedicated to review these transactions throughout the year, and rather relies on department personnel to process transactions, and finance performs manual post-closing reviews of such balances and related activity. Due to the voluminous volume amount of activity in these accounts, it is difficult to perform a thorough post-closing review and detect all errors. Additionally, because of the number of errors detected, information provided throughout the year may be materially incorrect. The city had a number of post-year end adjustments to its fiscal year 2017 financial statements. Such adjustments relate to errors, both material and immaterial, undiscovered throughout the fiscal year. As a result, the interim financial information produced by the city may be inaccurate. The city had significant adjustments for the year end June 30, 2017. We recommend that the city implement a new financial reporting system. As part of the implementation of the new financial reporting system, we also recommend the city to develop formal written procedures and develop monthly and year-end financial reporting procedures and checklists that mirror the input and report processes developed in conjunction with the new system. Additionally, the city should provide training to users of the system to allow for maximization of the new financial reporting system capabilities, inclusive of embedded controls.
Yeah, I'll respond. We concur with the finding, and we also concurred with the first finding, just for the record.
Mm-hmm.
So as it relates to finding 2, material weakness over financial reporting function, we believe that the selection of an enterprise resource planning system citywide will assist us with resolving this finding, because it'll have a module for financial reporting embedded in it. In the meantime, what we've done is finance upgraded the present city's accounting system, and that upgrade was completed in November of 17. One of the main impacts of that upgrade is that it created a workflow system requiring supporting documentation to be attached for all journal entries processed. So part of the finding was that incomplete documentation for journal entries. So with this upgrade, it's mandatory that for a journal entry to be processed, that there must be the supporting documentation. Agency staff have been trained on that, and in terms of staffing, we've submitted a request to the Department of Human Resources to address staffing issues within the Bureau of Accounting and Payroll Services.
Okay, I have a question. When we look at, and I'm on page 9, that's bullet number 2, where it talks about the property tax, water and sewer activity and capital access. I'm interested in the water and sewer. I want to know how can we, because it's enterprise money, and I'm concerned about increases in water bills. So is there a mechanism where we as the Board of Estimates or the council can look at how much money is in that fund? Because, you know, when you go pay your water bills, where do that money go? Does it go to the general fund? Does it go to enterprise fund? Because we need to know. Because because when Mr. Child comes and presents that he needs to raise water rates, and we don't know exactly how much is in that enterprise. Maybe we don't need to raise water rates. Maybe we might have enough money to move forward, or maybe we might not have enough money that can justify asking for another rate increase. I like to see that broken out because that's an entity, that's the enterprise fund, that if we don't have to raise water rates, we shouldn't be doing it.
Mr. President, we've had this discussion as well. The fund should be set aside separately because we borrow based on that fund. We borrow money. My understanding is currently we're at about $3 billion for both water and wastewater, and that is to repair the system. And it really should be tracked separately so that we can see, so that we can know what we're borrowing against and what we have left, so that with the same outcomes. Because we're borrowing money because we're supposed to be repairing the system. If we don't know what we have in there, then we're unable to track daily or regularly what is being done with the Department of Public Works. Because the Department of Public Works is supposed to be fixing our pipe system, borrowing off of this fund or floating bonds based on this fund. And we ought to be able to measure their progress. Because if we're at $3 billion currently, which is concerning to me, I want to know what the period of time, and this is more for the water department as well. At what point is the 14 miles, or whatever those miles of pipes are, at what point can we, the citizens of Baltimore, expect them to be repaired?
Yeah, because
that's a conversation for not just you. That's a conversation for the Department of Public Works as well, because this fund, which I understand, Mr. President, which is what we were talking about earlier, this fund currently does exist. This process exists. We're borrowing bonds. We're floating bonds based on this as a income-producing entity.
Right.
Am I correct?
A revenue-producing unit.
Because
Revenue-producing.
I've asked many times from Public Works, can you tell me how many miles we have done? And they can't tell me.
We can tell you.
They can't tell me. They told me in the hearing they don't know.
Right.
So we need to know how many miles have been completed and how many miles we have left. Because we're talking about taxing the citizens of Baltimore with increases in the water rate, and we don't know how many miles we have completed.
And it's important because an enterprise fund is a self-sustaining fund, and it should have its own separate records.
That's correct, and it does. So the point of clarification is we do have water enterprise fund, wastewater enterprise fund. They are separate funds. They've always been separate funds. They're audited separately. They're audited annually. We can provide to the board any information regarding the utility funds. That data is contained in the city's accounting system. It's always up. It's treated just like the general fund.
But it's separate because
it's separate,
and it's bonded
absolutely
separately.
separate fund. Bonding is separate. The borrowing is based on the capacity of the utility funds to repay the principal that's outstanding. So I just want to assure the board that those utility funds are accounted for separately.
Okay. I understand, and I think he's asking a deeper question, but that's more of a question for Mr. Chow.
Understood.
Okay, and a briefing that he needs to give to the president and the comptroller.
Finding number 3, material weakness over payroll timekeeping function, 2017-003. The criteria of Baltimore City is responsible for proper timekeeping and calculation of payroll. Various departments within the City of Baltimore are responsible for proper timekeeping and storage of timekeeping information. Baltimore City does not have a system that ensures proper approval and storage of timekeeping information among different departments. In addition, the timekeeping system that is currently used by some departments does not have the capability to maintain timekeeping within the compliance guidelines of certain union agreements of the city. Because the City of Baltimore was missing documentation regarding payroll-related items for a significant number of items in payroll testing. The city had significant adjustments related to payroll for the year ended June 30th, 2017. We recommend the city develop timekeeping procedures that will ensure proper approval and storage of timekeeping information. We also recommend that the city should invest in a payroll and attendance reporting system that will allow the city to properly track time work to the proper program department, and meet the compliance guidelines of the union and grant agreements.
Finance Department concurs with the third finding. The corrective action plan is associated with the implementation of the new ERP system. We will be examining payroll systems and human resource information systems to determine what's the best fit for the city of Baltimore. And this activity regarding the identification, RFP, and award for the ERP system is being led by BSIT under Frank Johnson. So I didn't point that out earlier, but BSIT is taking the lead on assisting finance with citywide upgrade to an ERP system and the identification of the appropriate accounting system, which will have the embedded financial reporting system, as well as addressing finding 3, which is a new payroll system and a new HRIS system.
Okay. We're going to skip over finding 5, come back to that. Finding 4, I'm sorry. Finding 5, material weakness over schedule of expenditures of federal awards, 2017-005. Condition, during our fiscal year 2017 audit, we prepared the CFA for the City of Baltimore. We obtained information from the city's accounting software, City Dynamics. Many times, expenditure information in the accounting software differed from the expenditures reported by various city agencies. We were not able to clearly identify which amounts were accurate, so we used expenditure amounts from the accounting software. In addition, we were not able to test the CFA as required by uniform guidance because much of the required information needed to be tested was not provided to the auditors, including CFDA numbers, grant award letters, and budgets. In addition, we were not able to determine if we had a complete listing of the federal expenditures and subsequent subrecipient payments for all grants from the City of Baltimore. The City of Baltimore Department of Finance is responsible for preparing the CFA based upon grant information obtained from the financial accounting records and other information provided by each department or agency. Per discussion with the Department of Finance, we determined that grant information is not maintained by the Department of Finance. Grant documents are necessary for the Department of Finance to obtain required information for the CFA, such as CFDA titles and numbers, pass-through identification information, and subrecipient information. The city does not maintain a centralized grant accounting function. Instead, each department maintains its own grant information. The lack of submission of grant documents and accurate information by the various agencies and departments to the Department of Finance weakens internal controls over grant reporting and hinders the ability of the Department of Finance to accurately prepare the CFA. Internal controls should be designed to prevent, detect, or correct errors in a timely manner. Without accurate controls, the City of Baltimore cannot provide reasonable assurance that the CFA is fairly presented. Controls have not been established by the City of Baltimore to ensure complete and accurate reporting for the CFA for the 2017 fiscal year. The determination of which major programs will be audited are affected by the accuracy of the CFA at the time of the audit. Failure to develop internal controls over reporting could jeopardize future federal funding and result in inaccurate reporting to the City of Baltimore's financial information, We recommend that the Department of Finance establish policies and procedures to ensure that the federal funds are properly identified and reported accurately in the CFA in accordance with the uniform guidance requirements. We also recommend that individuals responsible for administering federal assistance programs with the City of Baltimore receive training in grant administration.
Yeah, we concur with the finding. The comments related to this finding are essentially the same as number 1. So we're addressing this again through the creation of the Grants Management Office, the software, et cetera. So my comments to this apply equally to finding 1.
What I'd like to do is make a recommendation that the Department of Audits take a look at your accounting software and be sure that your policies and procedures are in place so that when we start the single audit in September, we won't have these findings.
No, totally agreed. And toward that point, I'd like to remind the board that as it relates to grant accounting policies and procedures, In the fall of 17, the board approved 9 separate policies regarding grants. Those policies were adopted for the purpose of centralization and standardization among all agencies for all aspects of grants, from applying to a grant to the termination or the end of the grant and everything in between. So we welcome that.
Thank you.
I guess my comment in closing is that we appreciate the efforts of the Department of Audits as it relates to the preparation of the 2017 CAFR and single audit. For the 17 CAFR, we were able to submit it on time, and moving forward, we'll be able to maintain the schedule. And the fact that both the single audit and the CAFR were unmodified audit opinions. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next finding is the water and wastewater billing. 2017-004. Criteria: the City of Baltimore is responsible for timely and accurate billing of city residents for water and wastewater utility services. During fiscal year 2017, the city changed its billing rate model and implemented a UMAX billing system for billing of customers. Due to the insufficient training of users in the new system and not having a well-defined implementation plan for the new system, a significant number of accounts were not billed, and a significant number of accounts were billed inconsistently. Additionally, timely reconciliations were not being performed during the year ended June 30th, 2017. The city had to make journal entries to accrue for the estimated unbilled accounts and provide an allowance for the billing errors to fairly state the revenue for the year ended June 30, 2017. The city implemented a new water and wastewater utilities billing system. During the transition, a significant number of customer accounts were not billed or billed inconsistently, which led to non-billing or incorrect billing to certain customers, and the incorrect amount of revenue recorded for revenue being billed. The city's water and wastewater utility system is not able to establish accurate water and wastewater utility revenue and accounts receivable balance without manually calculating the adjustments. We recommend the city properly implement the new billing system, develop formal procedures, timely and accurately bill water and wastewater utility charges, and properly train those using the new system.
Good morning, Board. I'm Dale Thompson, Deputy Director of Department of Public Works, and the department does acknowledge the audit report and the findings, which we found that focused on fiscal year 2017, when the city was transitioning from the old legacy system, which included over 30 years of data. We have made changes, and we feel that with proper staff training, that the department will, in the next audit, do extremely well.
So that means that our citizens will be getting their corrected water bills.
Yes.
Okay, and we won't get all of these calls about my water bill is extremely high. Last month it was $68 a month. Now it's $2,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So those things will be corrected.
Yes, yes, and we've put a lot of things in place, including training of staff in the new system.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I may just take a moment and give a shout out to a couple of the lawyers in the law department who have worked very closely with DPW and have done just a fantastic job in providing additional customer service to the citizens of Baltimore and working through some of the problems of the billing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Chow?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. If I may add, the issue that you have stated, and I just re-emphasize that this is a transition from a very much outdated billing system, as well as much of untrusted water bills from the past. As we transition ourselves into more accurate bills, and there is that culture change, and is much more transparent, and we certainly will take the time and explain any circumstances or any questions about any water bills individually.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chow, as you know, the citizens don't care about that explanation. They care about getting accurate water bills. Because if they have no faith in the system, and that's what they tell us every day. So I'm hoping that these changes that you're making are going to have our customers, who are our citizens who pay all our salaries, feeling that they're getting accurate and correct bills.
Yes.
They don't care about an old system transferring to a new system. All they care about is getting a correct bill.
Yes.
And we know that that's what this system will do. We also want to make sure that those who haven't been billed get billed. I'm talking about some of the businesses out there that we've sort of kind of skipped and missed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I know that this new system will be able to do that,
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So please note that for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
LAHEAP finding. The last two findings relate to the LAHEAP program. Material weakness over eligibility, finding 2017-013. Condition, during our audit of the program's eligibility compliance requirements for the LAHEAP program administered by the Mayor's Office of Human Services, of the 114 systematically selected participants, we noted numerous inaccuracies and discrepancies. The issues identified include 12 recipient applications requested were not provided for testing, 20 instances of missing required documentation, proof of residency, copy of identification missing, proof of household income and/or utility, heating, fuel bill, 306 instances of duplicate payments in the system, 18 instances of certifier and/or intake signatures missing, 30 instances where the MEET award was incorrect or not listed on the application, 56 instances of a break in quality control, 1 instance of a participant was wrongly denied benefit for over income, 36 instances where benefits were awarded but not listed on the application. MOHS did not have adequate controls over the eligibility process. Therefore, recording and retention of supporting documentation was not properly adhered to in accordance with uniform guidance. MOHS is not in compliance with the eligibility requirement for the LAHEAP program. We have questioned costs of $43,114 related to duplicate payments. We recommend that MOHS implement controls over the eligibility process.
Good morning, Mr. President, Madam Mayor, members of the board. First, I just want to state that we know that LAHEAP represents a program that's critical to the citizens of Baltimore City. Since the program was moved to our agency in fiscal year 15, these have been no stranger issues that we've been dealing with.
State your name.
Sorry. Terry Hickey, Director of the Mayor's Office of Human Services. With me is Lori Cunningham, Director of our CAP program, who oversees the LAHEAP program. We want to acknowledge the importance of this program, the importance of resolving these issues, which we've been working very closely on over the last couple of years. These are similar to previous findings in the last auditor's report. We acknowledge there's 2 individual ones that we did not agree with, but in general, we acknowledge the issues with the program. I want to let the board know there's been a leadership change in the program. The director has resigned. We have done some massive restructuring of the staff of this program. Under Lori's leadership, we are looking at a complete redesign of LAHEAP that moves the program into our CAP centers, looking at a new processing center. And what I'm the proudest of is working closely with the state, who's our funder, to resolve these issues with understaffing and others moving forward. The state, we believe, is accepting of the changes we're looking to make. Madam Mayor, we don't see these coming up next year.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope not, because it's like more the same. Because when it was over in the housing department, it was moved to you guys so that, we can get a better handle of it.
Right.
But we have all these duplicate payments in the system, and those kind of things. They have to be corrected, You're talking about question costs of $43 million related to, $43,000 related to duplicate payments.
Yes.
That's a job.
Yes.
Yes,
I can just say one thing. So the
Lori, state your name.
Lori Cunningham. So the question costs for the 43,000 are across all of the findings. When we originally had this program from housing, there were over, I think it was almost $1 million of question costs. So there's been significant improvement. The one with the duplicate payments was a keystroke error issue with the OHEP database. So those have since been corrected, and the duplicate payments have been refunded from the state.
Okay, so we will not be seeing this same findings next year.
That is our intention, sir.
Please note for the record. I'm gonna hold you to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that down, though.
Last finding.
Oh.
Last finding, material weakness over payroll, finding 2017-014. During our audit, we systematically selected 51 payroll transactions to test activities allowed and allowable costs compliance requirement. We noted that MOHS did not have the required written policy on compensation in accordance with uniform guidance. In addition, we noted the following during our testing of payroll. 6 instances where employee names and/or positions were not noted on in the program budget. 330 instances where the employees did not sign in and/or did not sign out. 13 employee summary sheets did not match the employee time sheets. 38 instances where employees took exception time without documentation. 4 instances of missing employee time sheets and biweekly summaries. 6 instances where employee compensation time were not properly documented. MOHS was not aware of the federal requirements to have written procedures for compensation for employees paid either partially or fully with federal funds. In addition, the agency did not have proper controls in place to ensure the payroll activities allowed and allowable costs were reviewed to meet compliance requirements. MOHS is not in compliance with the activities allowable costs payroll requirement for LAHEAP program. Employees could be receiving payroll payments in error, and MOHS could be improperly expending funds received from the Department of Health and Human Services. So we recommend that the agency write procedures related to federally funded payroll, partial and full, and implement these procedures immediately. In addition, we recommend that the agency review the payroll for fictitious or former employees still listed within the payroll summary sheets.
So I just want to say that in general, Human Services, we've taken a close look at payroll across the board. We've already taken action to rethink how payroll's done in the agency, and all of our supervisors have gone to the ADP training. But I wanted Lori to address this piece specifically, if I could.
So there was an issue where there was one staff member who moved from the OHEP program to another CAP program, and that issue has since been resolved. We also acknowledge that we have had significant issues with payroll as it relates to sign-in sheets, reconciling those with e-time. We are adding another OSS who is going to be managing the payroll along with the one OSS that's assigned to the OHEP program, so we don't foresee that being an issue moving forward. That person is slated to start on Monday. And in addition to that, we proposed a new budget with the state to hire 25 additional people, and we've also resolved our issue with the energy assistant position that was a problem at the last audit. So those 10 positions have since been posted, and so we'll have approximately 39 people on board for this program next year.
And what are those jobs requirement, and where are they posted?
So they're all energy program TAC 1 positions. However, they will be, there will be more information in regards to their specific job functions. There will be a call center that's established. We also will establish a larger mail room to be able to receive the inbound applications. They'll be posted on the city's website. You need a high school diploma, and we are requesting that you have 1 year experience in energy, but we would like to add customer service because we're very limited with finding those candidates who only have 1 year of energy experience. There's few programs that allow that.
Ma'am,
So
we'll be.
don't forget our May 9th youth employment fair for our high school graduates. It'll be a great opportunity for them.
The mayor quite fairly stole my thunder. We're going to be hiring for these positions there.
And they could be trained with that 1 year energy requirement.
Right.
I mean, some of those things are just way off base. We need to have training programs to train, on-the-job training, to train these young people coming out of school who are not going to college to do these jobs. So that one-year thing, you guys need to really take a closer look at that.
Yeah, they're going to do that for the May 9th Jobs Fair.
Thank
For
you.
the young people graduating from high school. This is their first, Mr. President, this will be the first jobs fair for our high school graduates, May the 9th. So we expect some support there. Thank
Okay.
you.
Please note that both audits have been noted. There have been no more business before this board. We will recess until board bid opening at 12 noon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Board of Education is now in session for the receiving and opening of bids. I have the following addenda to read for today. B50005327, Charm TV live stream expansion. Please change the bid due date from March 21st to April 25th, 2018. B50005272, Needles for the Baltimore City Needle Exchange. Please change the bid due date from March 21st to April 4th, 2018. B50005258, Master Lease Agreement. Please change the bid due date from March 21st to April 4th, 2018. B50005249, Diversity and Labor Compliance System. Please change the bid due date from March 21st to March 28th, 2018. Those are the addenda received for today.
Okay, so ordered.
SC 980, Rehabilitation and Improvements to Sanitary Sewers at various locations in Baltimore City. A bid bond is required if the amount is over $100,000. SAC Construction LLC with a bid bond. $10,519,250. Spiniello Companies with a bid bond. $10,733,000. Here is your certificate. Oh, got one here. Thank you. Good. Yeah, thank you. Good. Thank you. Just wanted to check. Okay. Midas Utilities LLC with a bid bond. $9,491,029.50. This is the back of this. Just gonna take some and then just put the rubber band around it. Yeah, thanks. So that it's doesn't get separated. Yeah, if you can put a rubber band around that. See, they needed one like this. Good. Anchor Construction Corp. with a bid bond. $9,833,360.50. IPR Northeast LLC with a bid bond. $8,574,214.35. And here's a big rubber band. Sure. Metra Industries with a bid bond. $10,492,639.50. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, these will be referred to the Department of Public Works for review. Yep.
Okay. B50005339. Harley Davidson PLHTP Electroglide Police Motorcycles. A bid bond is not required. Okay. Baltimore Power Sports, Inc., trading as Harley Davidson of Baltimore. $135,200.
All right, this will be referred to the Bureau of Purchases for review.
Okay. There being no further business, we are adjourned.